Okay, so once again, we're going to just go over the certification test prep questions, which comes from the study guide. So this is what the criteria is. If you actually go through the study guide and you read everything that you need to know about the certification exam, it tells you that it is a 50-minute exam and you have exactly 47 questions to answer, okay? So out of those 47 questions, I know it says 50, but they actually changed it. It's now 47. So out of those 47 questions, you have to answer at least 70% of that exam in order for you to pass the certification exam. Now, how they score it is based on 1,000 points. So if you guys do the math, you guys can figure out how much is each question. So again, you can only miss up to so many, but at the end of the day, you need to score at least a 70% for you to pass the certification exam. And usually right when you finish taking the exam, you can go back, you can go through the questions over and over again if you want to. Just know that you are on a time limit. You only have 15 minutes to answer each question, and think about it. 50 minutes and 47 questions, that means you cannot spend more than a minute per question. Okay? Now again, these questions, right, the more you practice, the more you are quick to respond right away. Because if you know the answer, then you should be able to you should be able to answer it within 10 seconds or 30 seconds, right? Shouldn't take you that long if you know it. But if you don't know it, that's where it's going to be kind of that idea where you might have to take longer on that question. Now let me tell you this. It is multiple choice. However, there are a few questions that can be select more than one answer or select all the answers that apply. So in that case, that question could probably count more towards your answers because you can have more than one answer. So make sure you are specific on which answers are for surely going to be correct. Okay? And of course, a portion of the exam is going to be navigation. So this is what it's usually. So 2/3 of the exam is going to be multiple choice, asking you general questions about the materials that you read. But 1/3 of the questions is going to be navigation and also matching. So what is that? What do I mean by matching? So they'll give you a bunch of for example, right, when we talk about items, they'll give you a list of items and you need to be able to match those items with what the description of that item is. Okay, that's an example of a matching question, and you're going to have to click and drag and put them in the respective bubbles, right, and be able to match them up with the correct description or the correct example of what it is. Okay, so that's one of the questions, but also another question is a navigation question, meaning walk me through how to enter in a bill. Okay, so again, step 1 could be you're going to enter a bill by clicking on enter bills on the homepage. Step 2 is going to be putting in the vendor's name. Step 3 is going to put in the date. Step 4 is putting in all the items, right? That is what I mean by a navigation. It's not like you have the screen in front of you, so make sure you do know the pathway because it's an exam. They're not going to give you the program on the exam. They're not going to give you anything. In fact, you're only able to take one thing with you, a piece of paper and a pen. All right? To jot down whatever notes that you need to jot down. But that's it. And they provide that for you, so it's not like you have to bring your own. So in this case, it's very, very crucial that you do try to remember those pathways, the ones I've showed you before, right? How do I get to the vendor center? Well, you have 3 ways, right? You could go to the vendor's menu, and be able to click on the vendor center that way too, right? So that's going to be a test question that you could come across where it's going to ask you to put the steps in order to how to enter in a transaction. All right. So once again, that's a grand total of 47 questions, and you have 50 minutes to answer all of those questions. Okay. Again, when you guys are completely done with this class, okay, it is your responsibility to schedule the exam yourself, okay? After this class is over, after there's 2 more weeks of class, right? After this exam is over, I'll be distributing you guys your practice exams, and you guys are going to be practicing this on your own. There is no time frame for me to force you guys to go take the exam, right? It's based on whenever you are ready, okay? But remember, you do have a time frame though, because you have to remember, once this class is over, you have exactly 2 months to take the certification exam, or else you'll miss it and you won't be able to take it ever again. Okay? Now that doesn't mean the certification exam doesn't exist anymore. Yes, you can certify for other QuickBooks programs, but just know that it's not the same that I taught you for whatever you learned in class, okay? Some functions might apply, but it's definitely going to not be the same because the materials and the questions that I'm asking are definitely going to be different than what it is when you're certifying for a different program. Okay, so you can't be certifying for online if you haven't taken the online class yet. Right now you're only doing desktop version, so that means you can be only available to certify for the desktop version, right? So reminder, there is a time frame, and for those of you who are going into the accounting class, this is where you have to stretch yourself out because you have to focus in the accounting class, which is very easy, by the way. It's very similar to this class. I provide all the work for you, spreadsheets, PowerPoints, and all I do is just ask you to do one thing. Read and stay on top of what the exercise is about. That's it. Everything's fair game. Everything's available for you on the Google Classroom, and the exam is also open book, open note, okay? My class is very, very easy. I make it so that you guys are able to succeed on your own. But again, it doesn't work the way where I'm feeding you the answers. It's more like you guys have to be able to do the work on your own for you to be successful. Same thing with this exam, right? You're going to have to set aside some time to be able to squeeze in the practice for the certification exam for QuickBooks because you guys are on a time frame. You guys only have 2 months after this, and I'm not going to be with you. I'm going to be too busy going ahead and teaching half of you guys because the other half, you guys were already in my accounting program. I'm going to be teaching the rest of you guys to the accounting section. So while I'm teaching the accounting section, you guys have to be on your own to also keep up with the QuickBooks materials. Okay. Now for this class, like I've mentioned before, right? Because you guys are in this class, the Google class for the QuickBooks class, you are able to access all of this materials at any given time. I'm not going to be deleting this classroom, okay? So that means you have availability to be able to access everything that you need to access, and including the YouTube videos, okay? Now if for any reason the YouTube video does get taken down, due to any copyright infringements, then I'm going to have to find some other way to be able to get that video posted, okay? So at the end of the day, those videos are for you to use to keeping yourself fresh within the materials that we just learned, but also to keep yourself, constantly looking at this material because you guys are going to be certifying soon, okay? So with that being said, again, you guys are going to be doing this on your own. It is your job to go call the school and schedule for to take the certification exam, and you have to do it before July 31st. That's the last end date for you to test for the certification desktop certification exam. Okay, last date is July 31st. Okay. Everything after that, unfortunately, we would Intuit would no longer offer the desktop certification exam anymore. Okay, so that means, right, the only one that would be available is online. Okay. All right. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive right into the study guide test prep questions. Just because I gave you the rundown on how to be able to, what are the materials that you need to know, what is the criteria, and what is to be expected. Okay, so again, for your funding agencies, all of you guys should get 2 opportunities to take the certification exam. Just because this exam is very hard, and a lot of students, the passing rate for the first time to pass is about 40%. And that's a very low passing rate, right? But the second time around, it's about 80%, right? Just because sometimes when a student goes into the certification exam, they either slacked off and didn't work hard enough, or when they did actually do it, they freak out, and when they take the exam, they always overthink the question, right? It's very straightforward. Do not overthink any questions. It's very straightforward of what they ask. Okay. On the certification exam, it can be nerve-wracking, especially if you've never seen it before, but the geometrics codes, the practice exams that I'm going to be sending you guys after the class is over, I'm going to tell you, this is going to be the most like the exam, because Certiport and Intuit work together, right? With geometrics. They are the ones that provided the practice exams from their actual certification exam. So again, the geometrics codes, the practice exams that you will be getting is going to be more or less a sample or a mock exam. Okay, so it's important that you try to look at those questions and kind of see how you're able to ask that same exact question in 4 or 5 different ways. Okay, so that's what I want you to do here today too, is if I ask you the question right here, you need to be able to ask that question in a million different ways and be able to answer them properly or correctly. Okay, so other than that, let's go ahead and continue on here and get started. So first section in your study guide is going to be QuickBooks setup, okay, which is going to be about 6% of your exam, which I've already calculated for you. So it's going to be approximately 3 questions, okay? So a student should know, or I even broke it down by chapter as well, so you don't have to go too much digging in here. But the first one says, what information is required before they, I don't know who they is, set up a QuickBooks file. So tell me, what do you think is going to be necessary for you to have? What are the requirements you need to have before you can set up a QuickBooks file?
Start date.
You need a start date. Good. What else?
A kind of business type, like corporation or Papa Mama shop.
Okay.
And then tax ID.
Okay, so you're looking into specifics of how, like, going through the interview, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You could go through the interview. So the start date, the interview.
Bank statements, credit card statements, any unpaid invoices.
Absolutely. You need all of that information. Now, what are you referring to right now? All of these are actually steps. What are you guys referring to?
The business part.
not the business plan. These are all steps that you need to take.
The detail interviews.
No. So let's go ahead and look at it. So I already have it up here. Page number 446. You have the 12 steps to set up your company file checklist. So this is where, right, number 1, you need a start date, right? Number 2, which is going through the QuickBooks company file setup, which is what you just told me, right? Through either the interview or through the details. Then someone mentioned here that you need to have the unpaid balances, the statements, all of those is correct. So look at here. So this is what you need to memorize. You need to memorize that when you are creating a company file setup, you need to have all of these 12 steps to be successful. Now, again, this only applies if you are a pre-existing business, okay? If you are a brand spanking new business, you only stop to step 4. Okay, because you're not going to have any unpaid balances. You're not going to have depreciation. You're not going to have balances. You're not going to have any of these. You're not going to have payroll information. So again, if you are a beginning company from scratch, you're only going to go up to the fourth step. Everything else is for only pre-existing companies that have all this information, okay? So again, this question is asking for what are the necessary requirements you need to have. It's going to be all of these 12 steps right here on page 446 in chapter 12, okay? So then you need the start date, yada, 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 okay? So I'm going to go ahead and put in here page 446, 12 steps, okay? All right. How to start a new company data file in QuickBooks. So this is referring to using the 2 different setups, the Express Start and the Detailed Start, okay? What makes the Express Start different than the Detailed Start?
The Express Start has a default account set up for you.
Yes and no.
It's for new businesses?
They're both for new businesses.
For new users?
For what kind of users?
The new ones?
Not new. You're heading on the right pathway though, or you're treading on the correct answer, but it's not for new users. If you're not a new user, what kind of user are you? More experienced users, yes, or avid users, right? So more experienced users, okay? Why? Because in this case, right, when you have the most experience of using QuickBooks, you already know how to set up everything, right? You don't even need to go through an interview because you would know exactly what your company needs, especially when setting up the preferences. So in this case, right, when you go through the Express Start, right, all you're going to be putting in is just the business information, right? So you're going to put in the business name, right? What kind of organization it is, right? Addresses, and that's it, right? It's going to create the company file for you, and then you have to go in and manually set up all the user preferences. So again, manually set up preferences and accounts. Okay? So that is using the Express Start. You only get one page, and that's just to enter in all the business information, right, in regards to the name, the tax ID if you need it, the company, what kind of company is it, and that's it, right? Where the detailed start is for new users, beginner users of QuickBooks, because in this case, right, the purpose of beginner users using this is because a lot of the times beginner users of QuickBooks, they don't know what to set up. So in this case, for beginner users, it literally walks you through a detailed interview. Okay, hence the word detailed start. It walks you through a series of questions and it asks you questions about your company. And when you fill those answers, you are setting up the company file with its default settings. Okay, so in this case, okay, as you answer questions through the interview, you are setting up the preferences. Okay, so that's the difference between the two. One of them is like, okay, I know how to use QuickBooks. I'm already good at it. I know exactly how to set it up. What are the necessary things I need to do? And how would you set up your preferences manually? Simple, going to the edit preferences and choosing between the user and the company preferences, right? We've seen it before. That's how you manually set up the preferences. Now, as you go through the detailed start, right, it's going to ask you a series of questions, right? Do you do progress invoicing? If you select yes, then that's a preference you just set. If you said you charge sales tax, it will turn on your sales tax and set up your sales tax right there. Do you have employees? Yes. What kind? 1099 and W-2 workers? Then that will set up your whole salaries payable and your salaries expense accounts for you. So as you go through the interview and you select and you go through these preferences, it helps you set up those preferences as well as those accounts as well. So set up preferences and accounts. Okay. All right, so that's the main difference, is that one of them is for more avid users or more experienced users. The other one is for more beginner users who don't really have a real idea of setting up a company file. But that's okay. An avid user could go through the detailed start anyway, because it's like going through, oh, if I can go through the questions, it will build my profile for me. I'd rather do that instead of have to do everything manually. So it's not only just for beginner users, but it's just recommended for beginner users to use the detailed start, and beginner users should not use the express start. Okay. All right. Good. All right. Now we're moving on to chapter 14. So this case, we haven't done chapter 14. So I'm going to highlight this and we are going to come back to this. Okay. Chapter 7. Yes, we did talk about chapter 7. How to customize the homepage. How do you customize the homepage? How do you turn on and off the icons on your homepage?
Isn't that preferences?
Good. It's through the edit menu. Preferences. Okay, and it's actually for specific, if it's asking you a specific question, it's not for user preferences, it's actually for company preferences. Okay, so yes, to turn them on and off is through the company preferences. Now again, if you are an avid user, you would also know that you can customize your homepage by going through the easy step interview. Okay? Now I will refer to the detailed start, also known as your easy step interview. They are two and one and the same. Some of them like to use easy step interview, some of them like to do detailed start. They are the same thing, so make sure you are aware of that because the test could refer to either or, and you need to know that they're the same thing. So again, the easy step interview basically sets up and also allows you to customize the homepage. So if you remember, right, do you keep track of inventory? If you selected yes, then your icons will show up for your inventory. But if you chose no, it would not show up. Okay. How about customizing the icon bar? How do you customize the icon bar?
Under the view,
Under the view, yes, you can customize the icon bar through the view menu. Excellent. Okay. What's the second way that you could customize the icon bar?
On the icon bar itself.
What do I do when I'm on the right click it? Excellent. I can customize the icon bar that way too. Good. There's only two ways to do it. Okay. So you either go to the view menu, okay, and then customize. And you can also do that by right click on icon bar. Okay, good. What about the menu bar? Can you customize the menu bar?
We are not allowed to.
Good. You cannot customize the menu bar. However, what can you customize? Or what can you add?
you can customize your favorites under the favorite menu drop down.
Excellent. You can add to the favorites. So that's the only customization you can't do is basically create a favorites menu list. Okay. So you can add transactions, items to the favorites menu. Yes, that's the only extent you can do for a menu bar, but no, you can't not change anything in the actual menu bar because it's a list of all your transactions. If you end up customizing them, then you're essentially deleting a function in QuickBooks, which that's not a good thing, right? All right, moving on to chapter 2 now. All right, chapter 2, customers. Oh, actually, this whole thing is a section. Chapter 2, customers. We're going to chapter 4, expenses, as well as chapter 7 for customizations, for the sales tax codes, etc. Okay, so let's look at all of them. How to set up lists. So how do you set up your customers, your vendors, your items, etc.? Okay, and of course, this can include understanding which names and items appear on which list. So pretty straightforward, right? If you sell products to your customers, then they're going to be on your customer list, right? If you sell items in general, like you sell packages or you sell specific items that customers can purchase, that will be on the items list. So in this case, how would you set up your people? So your customers, your vendors, and your employees, which I didn't teach you, but it's the same process. So let's talk about that first list too. How to add customers, vendors, and employees. How do you do that?
By going to the vendor center customers.
By going to the center. So go to the respective centers. And what do you do? What happens when you're in the center? How do you add a new customer or a new vendor?
You click the menu and then say add new.
What kind of menu is there?
Isn't there a drop down or a drop up box down at the bottom that you can add new?
Not
Or is it up on that one?
not for the centers.
Okay.
So here, if I go into the customer center, how do I add a new customer?
It says right at the top, new customer and job.
Right here, right there. That's not a menu, okay? It's just a little button, a tab that says new customer, new job. What's the second way you can do it?
Go to the top.
We
Icon bar?
no. Icon bar does not allow you to enter in new customers.
I thought you can go to the menus of employee, the customer, the vendor.
Okay, let's go ahead and explore that. If I go up to the top here and I go to customers, can I add my customer?
No.
No, they don't give you an option to do that. You have to go to the customer center. So now that I'm in the center, right, I already figured out the first one is there's a tab at the top that says new customer / job. So that's one way. What's the second way?
Can't you right click anywhere on the thing, the list, and it'll tell you add or new?
Correct, right? You can right click anywhere on the list and you can enter in a new customer at any given time. Okay, so good. So that's why it's very specific, especially if you say menu, right? If you say menu, you're referring to this gray bar up here, okay? Where it has your customer's menu, your vendor's menu, and your employee's menu. So no, if you were talking about this right here, this tab right here, that is not a menu, okay? That's just the window, and that's a tab on the window. So you have to be very specific because the QuickBooks question will ask it like that exactly. They're not going to refer to they're not going to refer it to any random button on there. They're going to say, okay, to add a new customer, right? You would have to go to the customer's menu, go to the customer center. At the top of the customer center window, add new customer. Click on new customer at the top of the customer center. Okay? So you have to be very, very specific on those, on the direction. Okay? So in this case, right? So you go to the respective centers, okay? And then again, one way is at the top of the window. Click new person, okay? Or just put it here, right click on the list and click new, okay? Whatever, new customer, new vendor, new employee, all right? Now, what we're talking about when you were talking about how to add a new item, so that's when you're looking at list, okay? When you go look at lists, so this could be your sales tax codes, right? Your accounts, your items. We'll talk about how to do items later, but again, everything is entering in the same. So we even talked about the terms list, the templates list, right? That was all chapter 7, right? All of these are in a form of a list. Okay? Now, how do you add when you're in a form of a list? Okay? So in this case, this is where it's slightly different. This is where you were referring, right? So for example, if I decided to open up my chart of accounts, right? How do I add a new account? That is where you were talking about going down to the bottom of the window and you have a drop up menu. That's exactly what you do when you're looking at items that are in a list. Customers, vendors, and employees are people. They are in a form of a list, but that's not how you refer them, right? There's only one way to do it, and that's through the center. These items and these lists here do not have centers. Okay? You just have to go to the list, and when you add a new account, you just go to the drop up menu and be able to click new or right click anywhere, and you'd be able to add a new account. Okay? So in this case, I'm just going to make that note here to add a new item to each list. You're going to go bottom left corner, drop up menu. Okay, and click new. Or right click anywhere on the list and click new. Okay? So that's how you add things to a list or people in QuickBooks. Okay? All right. Next section here is going to be talking about QuickBooks utilities. Okay? So basically anything about QuickBooks utilities or general product information, okay, which is about 10% of your exam. So it's approximately 5 questions, right? 10% of a 50 question, right? We're saying it's approximately 50 questions. So therefore it's about 10 questions. About 5 questions. Okay, so a student should know Chapter 1, right? Intro to QuickBooks. Number 1, how to navigate and move around on QuickBooks, right? What were the 3 ways to navigate QuickBooks, right? We got the home page, the icon bar, and the menu bar. So what does each one do? What does the home page do?
Gives you all your options.
Yes, but in what kind of manner? What
They're
it
laid out in a format where you can see where each one leads to everything, and then your lists are on the side.
Okay. So the home page, right, is a graphic depiction of the flow of a transaction, right? So for example, let's take a look at sales, right? If I were to sell something and I build my customer, right? We could see here that I first have to create an invoice. If I follow that line along to the right, it points to the next one is I must receive a payment. So first I bill somebody, they owe me money, so therefore I'm expecting to receive money. And when I do receive the money, it's going to make me deposit the money. Okay? So that is the depiction of the flow of a transaction. So if I enter in a bill, that means I'm expected to pay the bill. All right? So on and so forth, okay? This is called the graphic depiction of a transaction, and it's based on 5 sections, right? You got the vendors, you got the customers, you got the employees, you got the company, and then you have the banking. Okay, the banking is going to be one of the most crucial parts because this is where you're constantly paying your vendors. This is also the place where you're also dealing with the bank, so to making your deposits for receiving checks and things like that. So again, these are going to be the main transactions that you can do per section, per group. Okay? So it's a graphic depiction of the flow of transaction, and it's going to be broken down into 5 sections. Okay, so what I want you to do is here is understand why each section has those flow of transactions. Okay, what does the icon bar do? Want to say that again? What does the icon bar do?
Isn't it kind of a shortcut?
Yes, it is a shortcut, right? It is not a means for you. Now, where does these shortcuts take you?
To the center.
To centers. Good. So they are short cuts to centers, okay? They are not a list for you to put your transactions in, okay? They take you to be able to do those transactions because they take you shortcuts to those centers, okay? I'm going to put shortcuts to centers, not transactions, okay? Hence, you cannot add transactions to icon bar. Doesn't work that way. Okay, what about the menu bar? What does it do?
The menu bar kind of gives you each, I don't want to say item because that's related to QuickBooks, but each process that you can do and how to get into each of them, each feature, I guess, is that it has available to you.
Excellent, right? So I'm going to say, I will use list though. It will list out all transactions. It will list out all transactions. Okay, I have 2 R's, that's why. Transactions, features, transactions, features, functions that you can do in QuickBooks. Okay, and they can and is categorized by topics, right? You got the customer center or the customers menu. You click on that, it gives you a drop down list of all the transactions that you can do with the customer. Okay, your vendor, same thing, right? List of all the transactions you could do with your vendors, right? Same thing with the reports. You click on that drop down menu, gives you all the features of all the reports you can create, right? Your edit bar, your edit menu can give you all the features that you need to edit a transaction. All right, viewing, same thing, right? Help gives you a list of all the features that QuickBooks can help you with. Okay, all right. So yes, awesome. So those are the three ways that you can navigate QuickBooks: is homepage, icon bar, and menu bar, right? Those are the standard three. Now let's go ahead and talk about how to back up or open a backup file, and how to create a portable file and open up a portable file. So let me break this into two questions here so we can tackle one at a time. Okay? So let's first talk about how we could say how to, okay, let's do create and let's talk about how to open. But most importantly, let's talk about why, okay? Why would you need to create a backup file? Let's talk about that one first. Why would you need to create a backup file?
To have information that you already put in.
Can you repeat that again? To have a what?
To have information that you already put in, to save information.
Now, so when you create a working data file, you automatically save the information. So what is the purpose of a backup file?
You have a backup file because shit happens. Computer blows up or you lose, you gotta, if you save it outside of it, then you've got something to come back and recreate what you've already done if you lose it for whatever reason.
Excellent. It is a safeguard to keep your file intact. For again, just exactly what she said, right? In case your computer gives out at the last minute, your internet drops in the middle of your session, right? And you're typing in all your answers. And for some reason, because you have to have internet wherever you go in order for you to be able to use QuickBooks. They used to be able to do it offline, but now because of, today's society, right? Everything's online. You need internet wherever you go. Wi-Fi has to be connected to your computer, which is going to be running QuickBooks, to be able to save those files in your little Intuit cloud, right? That's what it's doing. And if your internet decides to give out on you and you're in the middle of something and your computer crashes, it cannot function, and you have to shut it down manually, you can have potential risk to lose your files, and it will be corrupted and you won't be able to open it. So that is exactly what a backup file is. It is a means to safeguard your file by making a copy available. Okay. Okay. So how would I create a backup? Okay. Chapter 1, it's in the PowerPoint, but it also walks you through it in chapter 1. How would I create a company backup? And I am going to show it to you again at the end of the class, because the last thing I have to do to close up the books is to create a backup file. But how would I create up a backup file?
If you go to the file up on the menu bar, it gives you the options to create a backup or restore something and previous companies and all that.
Awesome. Right here, backup company. Now it's going to say create a local backup, meaning you're going to create a backup on either your local C drive or on a flash drive. Okay? You're not going to be creating a backup that you're going to put up in the cloud, okay? So that's that option there. Again, you just spoke about how to open a backup file, right? You just simply go to open or restore a company file, right? And you have the options to choose out of the 3 different working data files. Backup is to open up the file, okay? Now that's also the same that you're gonna do for opening a portable file. Same thing there, okay? So let me go ahead and type that in there. Okay, so how do you create it? You got to go to the file menu. So pretty straightforward, right? It's like saving any document. You go to the file menu, right? And then you have the options to click on backup company, right? And then from there, you will create a local backup, okay? And we just talked about how to open it. You click on open or restore company file. And you're going to select backup file. Okay. All right, same question goes to the portable files. Why would you create a portable file?
A question on that. Do we create, portable files would be if you're sending it to your accountant and all that, wouldn't it?
Yep.
Otherwise, do we actually create portable files if we're working on them?
You can, because again, let's say I need to email it to my boss, right? Because if I'm working on my computer, the boss is not going to have that file. Unless the boss tells you to email the boss what you've been working on, then yes, that would be a reason why you would create a portable file, because your desktop is not going to be shared with the owner's desktop, right? Because the owner is going to have way more private information than you would.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. Thank you.
So again, yes. And then of course, if let's say for that reason, right, you could create a backup file and put it on your flash drive and give it to the boss. Okay? Or if you need to share information with a colleague, right? Let's say your sales representative, right? You get your own desk, and then your other worker is someone else, right? But you're not the accountant, so you can't share. You can't work on the same file as the other person because they have different login, right? So you could be able to share by having that portable file be accessed by someone else by making a portable file copy, right? And it makes it small enough so it's easy to be able to be transferable, okay? Because a backup file is going to be a copy of the working data file. And the working data file, if it can hold up to 14,500 items per list, meaning 14,500 people under your customers, 14,500 people for your vendors, 14,500 people for your employees, you can expect that file to be really big, right? So what the portable file does is it shrinks it into a much more easily transferable file, but it makes a copy of it. So why would you create a portable file? To send a copy to someone, okay? Now, here's a difference between you're never going to use a portable file to send to your accountant, right? You have your own accountant's copy. Okay? So, okay, let's go ahead. So to send a copy to someone, okay, what does it do? It shrinks, it compresses the file to a small, easily transferable file. Okay, so AKA you can email it. You can email it or put it on a flash drive. Much more easier to copy and move around. Now, how do you create a portable file? How would you create a portable file?
Same way that you created the backup. Both work.
Not the same exact way. You go to File on the menu bar, right? And how would you create a portable file? You can do it that way if you click on create a copy. Okay, where create copy, right? No, if you select it, it will tell you what kind of copy you want to do. You want to do the accountant's copy, you want to do a portable or a backup. But in this case, which one's going to be most obvious? So if I go to file, no.
In the middle, it says send the company file.
Yes, you are going to go to send company file and boom. Are you going to create an accountant's copy or are you going to create a portable file? Okay, good. All right, so how to create, you go to file menu, right? So you could have either option, right? Because you can make a copy because that's what essentially these are. But the most obvious way is going to be using the file menu, and you're going to send a copy, send company file, and then you have the option to select a portable file. Okay, good. And of course, how do you open one? Same exact way that you would use to open up a backup file. Only difference is, right, instead of selecting backup, you're actually going to select portable file. So that's what we've been doing and practicing in this class, is opening up portable files. Right? Good. Next question. How do you determine the release number and which edition of QuickBooks they are using, and how to update QuickBooks? Okay, so let's split that question in a couple of questions. Okay, so how do you determine the release number? Okay, so let's figure out that question first. Okay, we have to talk about what is a release number. Okay, what does it do? And then we can talk about how do you know what release number you're on. Okay, and then of course, how would you know which edition of QuickBooks they are using? Okay, so that's going to be under the same question there. And then how do you update QuickBooks is going to be a second question. Okay, so let's talk about what a release number is. What is a release number?
Aren't the release numbers, each version that they have is updated as they fix messes that they find on them?
Correct, right?
One's a different release.
Releases are patches that Intuit, or I guess it would refer this to QuickBooks. QuickBooks releases to fix any bugs or glitches in the program. Okay, good. Now, how do you see which release number you're on? How would you be able to see that release number? Okay. There's only one button I taught you in this class on the keyboard. Okay? For all shortcuts and all of those things, the QuickBooks exam is not going to test you on the shortcuts. They're going to test you on how to do the functions itself. Okay, so there's no point in memorizing the shortcuts unless you are an avid user of QuickBooks. Okay, but don't memorize any of the shortcuts, because that's going to eliminate your chances of getting that question right if you don't know the actual pathway. Okay? But there is exactly one key on the keyboard I taught you to use. F2 function key. Good. Okay, so that's the function key. It's above your number, so you don't press F and then press 2, right? They're called function keys. Okay, it's literally the row above your number line on your keys, right? It will say F1, F2, F3. This one is the F2 function key. So let's take a look at what that does. If I were to go ahead and type, just press F2 anywhere, it will pop up this window. It will tell me right here, I have release 9 out of 48. That means I got to do some updating. Okay? But that's what this means right here. That means there are 48 releases available. And right now I've only updated 9 of them. Okay? So that's how you can figure this out. And right here will tell you right here too, release 9. Okay? Release number 9. Okay? This is also where you're going to be able to see which edition of QuickBooks you're in. So this one tells me I am currently using QuickBooks Premier Edition for 2021. Okay? All right, and this gives me the license information, right? This is not supposed to be for you guys, but I mean, it's for the class. Okay? So that's how you view a release number, as well as looking at what product you're using. Okay, so in this case, which edition of QuickBooks you are using. So in this case, F2 is also going to be the answer here, F2. Okay. Now, how do I update QuickBooks? How do you update QuickBooks?
Go to the help menu.
Go to the help menu. Excellent, right? Okay. Make sure when you go to the help menu, you know exactly what you're doing. Okay. Help menu. Okay. Right here will tell me to update QuickBooks Desktop. Okay. Do not confuse between update and upgrade, okay? Upgrade will take you upgrade to the latest QuickBooks means it will download Enterprise because right now we're currently on Premiere. What's a more upgrade to the QuickBooks? You got Enterprise, okay? No, so that's the huge thing here is a lot of people confuse this, right? Updating the QuickBooks is going to update the release. Upgrading the program is going to go from Premiere to Enterprise. Okay? So excellent. On the help menu is how you're going to be able to update your QuickBooks to the latest release. Okay? So there you go. Help menu. You are going to select update QuickBooks Desktop. Okay? All right. Next question. Okay, what are the versions and editions of QuickBooks and what are available for a specific year? Okay, so in this case, all you need to know is what are the products that exist? What are the different versions of QuickBooks? Right? What are the different versions?
Pro, Premier, Enterprise, and then the accountant one.
Yes. Now, what kind of products are those? What makes it different? What makes those? Let me see. I don't know how to describe it without giving you the answer. Okay, so Pro, Premier, Accountant, and Enterprise. What needs to happen for you to have that program? What do you need to have in order to be able to use that program?
Either subscription or the software, don't you?
Okay.
Yes, online.
desktop and online. That is going to be the huge criteria here. So desktop, right? The desktop version, which you said was Pro, Premier, Enterprise, and Accountant. Okay, Accountant is a desktop version. Okay, so here the difference between this one and the online version, right? You have QuickBooks Online. Okay, the desktop is that you need to have a local desktop, right? Straightforward, right? Whether it's a computer or a laptop, right? You have to download the program on an actual device. Okay? Where online is you're simply going to be subscribing to a cloud space, right? And you're able to access your company file at any given moment in time, whether you have a computer, desktop, your phone, an app, right? They make it that much more easier. So that's the huge difference. Is one of them is locally on an actual physical desktop. Okay, it's a program that you download onto your computer. Whereas the online version, you don't need to download anything. If you don't even want to download the app, you can always access it on the website. Okay, so that's the huge difference. Is one of them is on a physical computer, the other one is in the Intuit QuickBooks Cloud. Okay, so that's the two different ones here. So QuickBooks Online is we know is a subscription based. It's not a software, but a subscription based cloud space for easy accessibility. Okay, where you can pretty much go anywhere, right? You could go remote, okay, on any device. Okay, whether it's a computer, whether it's a laptop, online, the web browser, the application, it's easily accessible because it's a online cloud-based type of. That's where it's saved to. It's not saved on your actual computer. Okay. So that's the huge difference, right? You got the desktop version, which has 4 different versions, which is Pro, Premier, Enterprise, and Accountant. And then you have the QuickBooks Online, which is a cloud-based subscription where you can access the company file at any given time with any kind of device. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and answer a few more questions before we go on a break. So number 12, company file setup, how to use QuickBooks in single user mode and multi-user mode. So let's talk about that. What is this feature? Right? What does single user mode mean and what does multi-user mode mean?
Isn't single user mode when we're the only one that has access to it, and multi-user is when you give access to certain parts to other people?
Yes and no. Okay? Yes, you are giving certain people access to that file, but what's the real bottom line here? Because that's just setting up another user for that person. But when you are using multi-user mode, what allows those other users to do?
Multiple user can access to the same company file.
Yes, at the same time. Okay, so that's a huge thing right there. So single user mode is usually only the account, wrong. Single user mode is when only one user is accessing the company file at one time. Okay, multi-users can have multiple users access the company file at the same time. Okay, so that's a huge thing right there. So again, when you're working on in a major corporation, right, that allows up to 30 users to have access to it, right? That makes the QuickBooks make it that much more accessible, right? To have and promote efficiency, right? Because if everybody can have access to the company file, right, all they have to do is be assigned a role. So, for example, right, payroll, you take care of payroll, I'll take care of sales, that person takes care of advertisements, that other person takes care of inventory, right? If everybody can do their job at the same time, that's what makes it efficient. Instead of having people have to clock in certain hours because they can only use the file at one time. No, that's not efficient at all. So that's why they created what's called the single user and multi-user mode. Now, so here's a few things that you need to know. In order for you to be able to make the file accessible to others is the person must be the accountant. Okay, they must be the accountant or have admin user rights. They can only be the ones to be able to toggle between single user and multi-user mode, okay? If someone is just a sales representative, they can only access the file as a single user mode, okay? So that's why they have you, when you create those users and passwords, right? If you want them to keep working on that same file as everybody else at the same time, the admin can only be the only one to be able to toggle between the single and multi-user mode. Okay. All right. All right. How does password protection? Okay. How to password protect your QuickBooks. So I did teach this in chapter 12, right? So let's talk about why. Why is it so important to password protect your file?
Because of sensitive information that QuickBooks stores.
Exactly. Sensitive info that QuickBooks stores. Good. Right? And how do you create or password protect your file? How would you password protect your file?
Create a password.
And how would I do that?
Um,
Is it under company?
It is under company.
And then set up users, I think.
Yep.
Set up.
Correct. Set up users and passwords, and then you would either set up your user or you can change your password. Okay, so good. All right. You can also set up your password through the Easy Step interview, right? When you set up your company file in the first place, right? They'll ask you to set up your user and password. But in most cases, right, for that example, I told you to skip it because if you're trying to enter in all the information in there, you're most likely going to forget the password that you created. Okay? So you want to wait till you're done going through the interview and then set up the password. Now, if you choose to skip that, right, and let's say that you close your company file, the minute you open up that company file the next day, it's going to automatically tell you that you need to set a password immediately, and it will not let you bypass it. Okay? Because of the reason is because you just added sensible data in there. You need to protect your file as soon as you create it. Okay? So again, how? You go to company menu and you're going to go to set up users and passwords, right? And then If you haven't set up your password already, then your option is going to be to change your password. Okay. All right, so let's go over this last couple questions and we'll go on break, okay? Number 7, customizing QuickBooks. How and why would you use preferences? So let's talk about it. We have 2 sets of preferences, right? User and company preferences. What's the purpose of why you would need to set up your own preferences? Okay, so user preferences, I'm going to put this in parentheses because when you're looking at on the desktop, it's my preferences.
So that the person can go in and out and change things. They can log in and out.
What changes would they need to make on their profile? Why would they want to change their profile?
They can change their own preferences.
Or like making your own shortcuts so you don't have to do the long way or whatever.
Okay, so that's going to be for customizing the home page, the menu bar, or the icon bar. So that's not technically a user preference. But you're treading on the correct pathway.
Because we can set up whether we only can use one window at a time or multiple windows.
That's an example, right? Because not everybody is going to want to use multi-windows, right? So that is a user preference you can set up.
It's specific to the person that's using it.
Correct, right? You would set it up because you would customize the preferences based on who is using the current desktop. Okay? Good. Right? You would make changes such as windows, right? Multiple windows. What else can you change?
What kind of, how the file is saved, I think.
No, that is definitely not a user preference.
What was the question?
What are examples of user preferences? So you said multiple windows. Yes, that's one of those things that you can do.
One implement maybe a contact.
No.
Let's say that we can change how the calendar looks.
The what? The what?
Calendars?
Not necessarily calendar.
And they can do that.
You can change color schemes, but if you remember, right, what I showed you, all you do is just changing the title bar. Okay, you can choose how your icon bar looks. So that's one of them too. Like if you prefer to have colored icons at the top of your window, then yes, that's a preference. Not everybody likes the icon bar at the top of the window, but again, if you prefer to have colors, yes. Other ones you could do here, let's take a look at what your preferences can be. Oh yeah, another one's gonna be like how when you're done using the file, right? How do you want to save the file? Do you want to save it as where you left off, or is someone else using the computer with you? Then you don't want to save the file. You just want to make sure that you only have the home page that pops up. Okay. And of course, other settings such as your personal computer settings and personal sound settings. So that's pretty much what you can do too. But remember, every single preference under user preferences is going to have some other details that you could customize your features as well. Okay. So again, but what the book taught you was just the very simple of what you can do to actually customize it for your appeal, right? To what it would show you. So, yes. Okay. Okay. And last but not least, what's the difference between that and company preferences?
Company preferences gives you where you put in different terms and discounts and things that the company itself is offering, isn't it?
No, that is definitely not a company preference. That's just a list that you're creating.
You
What
can make
kind of
that.
feature we prefer, like a progressive invoicing and such?
Okay, but here's the question, right? Is that applying to just the person who's just using the
No,
file?
everybody who
Everybody gets to get if you do progress invoicing, that's for everybody who accesses the file. So in this case, a company preferences, what does it do? It customizes and changes settings to be applied to the company file itself. So then all users will have the same setting. Okay, so it's not just applying for whoever's using the computer, it's applying for the company file itself. That means everybody's going to have that same exact change. Okay? So that's the huge difference there. Now, for company preferences, that list will go on and on and on because every single chapter we will be taking a look at what those company preferences are. So if you remember, right? Chapter 12, we talked about the accounting, right? Switching between the account numbers and things like that, turning on class tracking, right? We just talked about what you could do for display, right? Do you want this to display on the home page, right? We also talked about jobs and estimates, right? Is that something that we need to have? Are we going to have progress invoicing? Okay, and trust me, throughout the rest of the next couple chapters, right, when we get into chapter 8, we're going to look at items and inventory. That's definitely going to be something that we're going to be looking through the company preferences for. Time and billing is chapter 9. Payroll is chapter 10 and 11. Okay, so again, taxes. So for setting up sales tax, we took a look at that in chapter 3. So again, every single chapter is going to be dealing with some kind of company preference that you can make and changes to. So again, company preferences is going to be a long list of what you can do. Okay. All right, so I'm going to stop here for now. We're going to go ahead and take our 15-minute break. So right now it is exactly 2:57. I'm going to round that to